Okay. Hello, my name is Michelle Schaefer. I work for WLTN Radio. I'm here for Channel 2 today, and this will be the North Country Legislative Spotlight. Today we have 7 representatives with us, 6 representatives, and one senator. If you would like to start and just introduce yourself.
I'm Sue Ford. I live in Easton, and I currently represent Grafton District 3, and that goes from Easton all the way down to Orford, along the coast in that area. District 3. I serve on the Finance Committee this year, and I find the legislature very interesting.
And I'm Linda Lauer. I live in Bath. I represent Grafton District 15, which is essentially Sue Ford's district plus the town of Haverhill. I've been assigned to the Environment and Agriculture Committee, and I'm the chairman of the subcommittee on environmental policy.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Brown. I live in Sugar Hill, and my district is Grafton District 2. It is Sugar Hill, Franconia, Monroe, Lisbon, and Lyman. And I'm also in the Agriculture and Environment Committee.
Nice. And over here?
Hi, I'm Representative Marsha Hammond, and I represent Coos County, District 5, and represent the villages and towns of Whitefield, Carroll, Jefferson, and Randolph. And I'm very happy to be sitting in the legislature this year. I'll tell you later, unless you want to know my committee assignment.
Yes, go right ahead and
All
tell me.
right, I've been asked to sit on the Public Works and Highways Committee, which is a more budgetary affairs than I imagined when I first sat in my seat.
Okay, Jeff Woodburn. I'm the senator from District 1, the North Country, which encompasses 27% of the state, everything sort of north of Plymouth. And I sit on the Energy and Natural Resources Committee.
I'm Linda Massimilla. My district is Grafton District 1. My towns are Littleton and Bethlehem, and I've been assigned to the State and Federal Relations and Veterans Affairs Committee.
My name's Ralph Doolin, and I represent Littleton and Bethlehem. And I was assigned to the Consumer Affairs Committee, and that sort of represents everybody on Main Street.
Nice.
Finding it very interesting.
Well, in your committees.
Pardon me?
And your committees?
Well, the Consumer Affairs Committee in the House is the 3rd largest committee. So we have about 75 bills. So we're not assigned to a subcommittee. They keep passing them around. We have about 6 bills a day. And I have chaired a couple of those subcommittees.
Now, my question on the table, since we now know all of your committees, is what perspective do you think you can bring to your committee? You want to start?
Well, Finance Committee is establishing the House budget. Most of you know that yesterday we got the budget from Governor Hassan, and she made her delivery and presented us with a budget for, and I should have brought it, it's about that thick. My weekend assignment is to go through and concentrate. I'm particularly interested in the aspect of the budget that deals with education. So I will be taking out the education part and looking at that. On finance, we're divided into 3 different divisions. I'm on education, and I'm on safety, which involves the police and all the training that goes along with that, state police, all those issues. So our committee now will go line by line in this budget to take a look at it. Most of the, this probably is the only committee that's not considered a policy committee, but we all know money is policy. And when the governor sets her budget, she's setting the policy for the state of New Hampshire. The House now gets its budget. We will develop that. We will take the state budget. We will go through that, and then we will pass it along to the Senate. The Senate will take and make it their budget, and then it comes back to the House and Senate, and we fight about it. And so we come out with the state budget by the end of June. So that's basically what we're doing. It really isn't a North Country budget, it's a state budget.
Linda, what about you?
Environment and Agriculture was my first choice of a committee. First of all, my constituents have cows. What can I say? So it was a good fit as far as a committee that I thought I could make an impact on my district. And it's an area that I've always been interested in, particularly the environmental aspect. I used to work for Lockheed Martin Corporation in Orlando, Florida, and was involved in the environmental side of that particular company from the standpoint of some groundwater remediation projects, which is something that the Environment and Agriculture Committee is involved in. And I think Rebecca brings an awful lot to the committee as well, so it's great to have two people from this area on the same committee, because I think together we can really accomplish something.
And Rebecca, I've read a little bit about your bio. You have a very strong background in environmental issues. Again, tell me what your perspective will bring to your committee.
Well, thanks. And it is great to have a couple of North Country people there because, as we all know, a North Country perspective is often not understood or not even recognized in Concord. So, and we think that for the North Country, agriculture is actually a potentially really a growth area for our economy, for jobs, for bringing young people back here. So my interest in the committee, and why this was also my first choice of committee, was to advance that policy and look at agriculture in the state as an important economic development area. Again, agriculture has been a bit overlooked as one of the really key sectors of our economy. So that's what we're doing there.
Oh, okay. And what about for you?
Marcia?
Yes,
Yeah.
Marcia, sorry.
The Public Works and Highways was down on my list. I said I was interested in infrastructure and primarily education and environment. I put first choices, but as we were disseminated through the legislature, I'm very happily positioned with maybe three other new legislators on the Public Works and Highways. And I've been told by a former Speaker of the House that it's an important committee, as is everyone. And my own personal, I'll say, experience with highways is I was a rural carrier for 24 years, so I depend upon all sorts of roads, whether they are the primary, secondary, tertiary, or even our municipal roads. And what has really been eye-opening on my committee is the fact that because of underfunding of our state's budget, especially in the last biennium, we are now at a crisis with most of our roads. And certainly there are many, many red listed, they call them, bridges in our state. So my perspective, I'm learning a lot. And at the same time, I did risk the nation's highways back in 2002 and drove by myself from LA up through and kind of made the Lewis and Clark Trail drive, and then came up through Canada and into northern New Hampshire to visit family for 2 or 3 weeks in the summer, and then drove back by myself in a vehicle. And I actually anticipated maybe having a mishap, but thanks to good roads, our reliable interstate services, as well as some historic routes, I came back unscathed, and I had even camped by myself, and there were numbers of people that said, "You dare do that by yourself." And so I think America's a great country, and New Hampshire's the best part of it all.
Now, Jeff, what about you and your committees?
Well, first, in terms of just the process, the House has 400 members and there are only 24 senators, most of which serve on multiple committees. The single best advice that I had representing a large district, 27% of the state, and varied interest, most of them budgetary, trying to improve the economy, and was to take just one committee assignment. I think I'm the only senator who serves on just one committee, and that gives me the time time to be able to focus on the projects in the North Country. Not so much the policy, but how do I bring money back to District 1 to create jobs and economic security. So I serve on the Energy Natural Resources Committee. It's a nice fit, I think, for me personally, as well as my background. I've owned business. I've written for the local newspapers, and with the Northern Pass issue, it's a good place to talk about our energy policy or our lack of energy policy in the state. But also, I'm very interested in agriculture, very interested in fish and game, and those are areas that I've spent a lot of time writing about. So I'm interested. And I think it's always important that I'm noticing, and particularly in the Senate, where most of the districts are metropolitan, few towns, not a lot of land, that the idea of people living in an area that 12 people per square mile are in Coos County. In the state of New Hampshire, it's somewhere over 330. So that perspective with the land, I think, is vitally important to bring that to a body that really doesn't understand rural areas or rural issues.
And Linda, what about for you?
Well spoken, Jeff. I'm on the Veterans Affairs Committee, as I stated, and I had a father, a brother, older brother, my husband, and who were all veterans. And I have some friends who have sons who are veterans of the Iraqi War. And the problem with the North Country is that we have to take, and the veterans have to go so far to get to a facility in Manchester or White River Junction. And the North Country is, so we have our mobile vans and stuff, but we don't really have a VA hospital for New Hampshire. In fact, we're one of 2 states that doesn't have a full-service VA center. So myself and Representative Rideout, working on the committee with me, we House Concurrent Resolution Number 1 came before us looking at a full-service VA hospital as a resolution to send on to our congressional delegates. And both Leon and I decided, after listening to some testimony from another rep, that maybe instead of having to spend like $750 million on a facility, which probably would have been built in the urban areas, that maybe we could start a VA medical card that could be used in any New Hampshire medical facility, which would then open up, the medical facilities here in the North Country to all of the veterans, and they wouldn't have to take that long drive down for immediate care or be sent on to some other facility later on. So we're really pushing for that. And luckily, Representative Annie Custer is also on the Veterans Affairs Committee in Washington. And so we've been working with her delegation to get this to be more than just a resolution, but something that, as a pilot program here in New Hampshire, it may come to fruition. So we're really excited about that.
Great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. Well, Ralph, you're next.
The Consumer Affairs Committee, like I said, is Main Street. And so I probably work for everybody on Main Street in Bethlehem and Littleton. We've had insurance bills and banking bills, grocery bills. The Liquor Commission has been in and out of there several times. And so we've covered them all. It makes it very interesting, and every 6 times a day you're into a different industry. I don't dare to start in on any tales of one particular industry, but I certainly have people back here that I can and do at some point come back and say, hey, by the way, we had this bill. The other night, the eye doctors have a group up north here, and they met during the snowstorm, and I went down, had pizza with them, and they had a fellow call from Massachusetts who works for that industry. And when he found out I was in the room with him, he immediately turned his attention. And it just so happened the day before we had addressed the bill, optometrist bill. And boy, I was lucky that I remembered everything. I knew the answers to all the questions, and he was impressed by me, and I was happy he was. But those kind of things, can happen with anyone along Main Street. That's about all I'd say, unless at some time we want to talk about a specific bill or something like that.
I'm very sure we'll have you back, and we will talk about those things.
Oh, thank you.
Definitely. Now, my next question, I'm going to start with you, and we'll go back the opposite way. What have you learned about the New Hampshire legislation since you've taken office last month?
The legislation?
The legislative process, excuse me.
Well, you certainly don't learn that in a week or two. And Sue knows it, and she's still learning a bit, she'll say, because she's on a tough committee over there. And but knowing the rules of the game, and there's a lot of rules, and I don't believe you learn the rules in 1 year. And as you learn the rules, and I suppose after you're down there, term or two, you begin to learn up to move up the pecking order. And Sue has, and that's an important part of it, especially right now in our early weeks. I'm sure we've all made mistakes, except the senator.
He gets away with stuff, right?
You just don't know about them.
But he's right. There's only 40 over there, and or 24, and there's 400 of us, and so they really work those guys pretty hard.
Well, then, what have you learned?
Well, first of all, I haven't learned how to find my way around, but we're working on that aspect of it. I've learned that I was a former teacher. I've now become a student. There's just so much to learn. And, like abbreviations for the bills and looking at the state constitution and knowing when yes means no and when no means yes. I find it using our voting stations and just being able to experience the whole process is just amazing. You sit in awe sometimes to think that you're part of such an august body. So it's a learning experience.
It sure is. It's a learning experience for everybody. And I would say the smallness of the Senate, the collegial aspect of, even though we are different, we are controlled by the Republicans, and how important relationships are, more important than policy. And even though you're mad at a loss or a slight or whatever it might be in the process, to understand that there'll be another day and you'll need them on your side. I'd also say that to my great surprise and pleasantly surprised is that there's a special advantage and a special benefit I think you get coming from the North Country. I was at a committee to try to improve the distribution of the room and meals tax, and the senator from Hampton, Rye, that part of the state, preceded me, and they grilled her, and I thought, oh my gosh, I hope they don't ask me those questions. But Portsmouth is seen to be a wealthy part of the state. They had no sympathy to send more money back to Portsmouth, and then I came, and you talk about the needs of the North Country, and people recognize those, and they want to help, and we have a history of receiving that help, and I think that the senator from the North Country does get the benefit of the doubt on those areas. And I'm also struck by with the exception of Marcia, we're very Grafton County focused, but today, this morning, I was in Colebrook and spent a lot of time in Berlin and those areas, and you see the poverty in the North Country. And when they call you on the phone and say, I'd give every penny back of that unemployment compensation if I could just have a job, that brings it real, that the things we do here do matter to those folks. And that's who I want to be representing, and knowing that we have to make some tough choices, but bringing jobs and economic opportunity to an area of the state that desperately needs help.
Marcia, what about you? What have you learned about the New Hampshire legislative process?
Well, I've learned that it is amenable that our new Speaker of the House decided to rearrange the House floor. Instead of 400 members sitting by party, or we are now mixed up. So we can actually talk with our seatmate, who may be of an opposite party, as is mine, and a brand new friend from Milford, who was so proud that she was elected as the first Democrat from Milford. And we all have a certain interesting perspective, and I just spoke yesterday with a man that has been sitting very intently reading his congressional notes every time we're in session, holding them very close to his eyes. He's probably my age, and yet he's a person that has been an educator all his life. And as we learn the different, important facets of each person, we begin to communicate. And that's what I'm discovering, that we are encouraged to communicate in our committee hearings, and basically because of the maze-like physical description of the State House and where we have to walk across to the legislative building, we are continually meeting persons and hoping to get to know them. And because we wear name tags down there, we can greet one another. So for me, reaching out is an important facet, because I do think it's by getting to know others, both in your area. Ralph was very good to try to encourage me to come for coffee and learn about some Grafton issues. And I do feel that the longer you sit there, the more intimate your understanding of whether it's tolls for Purple Heart holders, where I also spoke up and said we need a veterans hospital in New Hampshire at that occasion on a highway committee, or a statue for John Smith. Should it be located on Isle of Shoals and renovated at our costs, or placed in Portsmouth? You wouldn't think that would come before Public Works and Highways, but we're having to spend hours talking about bills that are in our hands, and yet we have to move them very quickly. And I'll let someone else share about how many bills we have. I was encouraged as a new representative not to try to devise and introduce a bill by this year of the biennium, because there are so many in train already. And these all have to be addressed by the legislature and then turned over to you as a senator.
Rebecca, what have you learned? It's only been a short time, but
I've learned a bit of what everybody's already said, and I'll add to that it's a very open process for citizens to get involved in. It is, I think, as close as we can get to real direct democracy. And just like we can all go to town meeting and participate directly in our towns, every citizen can come to the State House and be involved at the committee level, because we hear every bill, and committees make recommendations to the full legislature. Nothing is killed in committee, which is a really important difference between the New Hampshire legislature and every other one I've ever heard of. So it's because there are so many bills that come through, probably 1,000 in each year of the biennium. There are many, many, many issues, and we as representatives rely on our constituents to give us information on how they think that things are going to affect them here. So, for instance, I write a Courier column every week or so, asking people, what do you think about gambling or gun control or this or that? And I think as a group, we all came into this saying we need to be having better communication back and forth. So this program is an example of that. So I think biggest learning for me, many issues, many complex issues, and New Hampshire residents, citizens can get involved through their representatives and be effective through that process. And that's going to be very important for the North Country, particularly on all of the energy and Northern Pass related issues right now, for a very timely example.
And how about for you?
Well, I think one of the things that impressed me after several years of looking at newspaper reports of all the dysfunctional activities in the State House, when I got down there, I realized that 99% of the people have exactly the same goal, to do what's best for New Hampshire. And we may disagree on how to go about that, but if you get into a committee meeting, it's very congenial. And I would say in environment and agriculture, I at this point don't know who's a Republican or who's a Democrat. And I think that's good.
Yes.
I think we need to listen to each other, and I've been pleased to see that that's what happens, particularly at the committee level, where I think Marcia pointed out that we get to know each other very well in committee in particular. And it takes it to a different level than what I had anticipated. They all become, to some extent, friends. So when we discuss a problem, it's like a group of us sitting down around a table discussing a bill and the different aspects of the bill. And yes, there could be disagreements, but nobody's disagreeable. And I was pleased to see that. I really had some fears about jumping into a snake pit, and it's not like that at all.
Well, Sue, you are the only one that is not an official freshman here.
Right.
So you've done this once before. What is it that you have learned in this session?
Well, let me just back up a little bit. I can say all of the things absolutely the way that you are. And when we talk about the New Hampshire legislature, we talk about it being the 4th largest in the world. We talk about India, we talk about the British Parliament, we talk about Congress, and we talk about the New Hampshire legislature. And people in other states say, how can you possibly get 400 people to work together? And what you heard today was the work that goes on in committees. And that's how New Hampshire gets the work done that needs to get done. It's because people that sign up for committees that they are committed to, that they are involved with, and they are passionate about. We have the 4th largest in the world. We have the smallest staff of any legislature in the country. So we are the staff. In the House, all of the work happens in committees. It happens because people are passionate about what they're working on and they care about it. And so if I have a question about rabbits and chickens, I'm going to Rebecca, I'm going to Linda and say, this bill came up, I don't understand the blurb, help me with it. And I can talk to them. And they're absolutely right. I was on Children and Family Law before. It was a group, a cohesive group that worked together. I'm in a very different learning curve this year. Being on finance is very interesting. And I will tell you, interesting is my code word for challenging this year. It is a challenge. We've lost a lot. I've lived in 2 other states. I've lived in Illinois and Connecticut. I can think of ways to cut the budget in Illinois and Connecticut. We've got a tight budget, people. We've got services that need to go to people in the North Country. What I've learned this year, and that I didn't have the first session that I was involved with, was how to work with the Senate. I'm thrilled that Jeff is the senator from my region. We call each other, we talk to each other, we work together to make it happen for the North Country. There are other senators that I've got to know down there, and so we have this absolute feeling, Linda's absolutely right, we're working for New Hampshire. And that makes a huge difference. But working between the House and the Senate has been my unique take on this whole thing this year. And part of that is because Jeff is so receptive to talking and listening and working for the North Country, and I want to say thanks.
Well, there's a great group from the North Country Democrat and Republican, and I think part of it has been some projects, the Northern Pass, the CTE project in Whitefield, where we've all come together and say, okay, how do we move this forward? And that unity of purpose on those has spilled over to other issues, and so I think we have a great delegation and a great diversity of experience and skill and abilities that really can make us stronger if we stick together.
We also have to have a fairly loud voice. There are 10 representatives in Coos County. There are 27 in Grafton County. And when I look at Grafton County and then I look at a city like Nashua, there are 27 representatives that come out of the city of Nashua alone. So we have to be loud, we have to stay together, and we have to recognize that there are issues and that we do represent the North Country and we bring that perspective to Concord.
Nice. Now, there was 2 questions I want to find that touched upon that real quick. I'm sorry, I do apologize. How does each of you view New Hampshire's North Country as compared with other regions in the state, and how does your point of view influence your priorities? Let's go ahead.
My very first experience was when people came in and talked about the North Country, and they talked about home health services and how they were going to save money. And what they were talking, a group from Concord, Manchester, they were going to save money because they were no longer paying, they were only paying for individual visits. So if I were a home health worker, I would get paid for the number of visits that I made during a day. My hand went up and I said, have you made accommodations for the North Country? And they said, pushed me a little further on that. Well, if I'm in Manchester and I'm a home health aide, I might be able to do 5 visits because I stay within a block. Now, when I come to the North Country, I can do 1 visit and then I can drive 40 miles for the next visit. Jeff invited some senators and some Chris Pappas, executive counselor, up to the North Country. I still think those people were amazed at the distance that people have to travel. So if I'm a home health aide in the North Country, I can't do 5 visits and travel 40 or 50 miles in between. I can maybe do 3 if I push it. And we don't say speed, but we do say stay on task. And that is a huge difference, and people need to recognize that. And the people in Manchester said, oh, well, we really hadn't considered that. And so those are the little kinds of things that you need to bring forward for that. The Finance Committee is also talking about taking the budget on the road. And I'm on finance, and we'll be to the North Country.
Did you want to comment on that, sir?
No?
No, I thought I heard something here.
No, I was just going to say that, you're accurate about they don't realize the distance traveled for, like the vets going down to White River Junction or going down to Manchester. They hear about it, but they really can't relate to it. And I think that piece that the North Country, I'm sure they thought of us as another country at one time, but, we are transportation-wise, removed from the urban areas, and I think that's a huge part of it, that they have to realize that, transportation, and that gets into infrastructure and, time and things like that. So, I'm really glad that, we're all, I think, adding to that by letting them know that, it's not just around the corner, that we need that service, and we have to go a great distance sometimes to get it.
I would just add a little story that I was talking to one of my colleagues, and I had said that I had lost 8 towns when I ran, and he said, 8 towns? You lost 8 towns? How did you win? And I said, I won the other 50. But it's their perspective. And, you know, a small town is a town with 5,000 people. So the idea of these legislation, which assumes that every town has an energy officer or you know, a full-time planner, or zoning for that matter. My little town doesn't have zoning. You know, it's hard to put those issues in context for them. I would say the one thing that, you know, traditionally they've given a little more staff to the North Country Senator because of those 58 towns. They're also an area that they're older. They're less financially well off, maybe less skilled in terms of accessing complicated laws. I got a letter the other day from a gentleman, an older gentleman from Woodstock, and he said, I want to talk to you. And he drew a map where he lived and wanted me to come see him. Where, you know, if you're living in a Bedford or another community, you know, you have access to lawyers, you have access to the internet, you get much more emails. I still get letters. People handwrite letters. And that's an unusual occurrence in this day and age. So, you know, we're just a little bit more old-fashioned. That's what we all love about the North Country. But it's not this idea that if you have a problem with the legislature, you form a PAC or you form an interest group and you hire an attorney or you hire a lobbyist. I mean, our people don't do that. I think, you know, the success of the Northern Pass debate was that, you know, we just didn't run off and hire a lawyer and a lobbyist and get to work. It was grassroots. That's the way we do things in the North Country, but it's very different than in southern and central New Hampshire.
Marcia, did you want to go ahead and comment?
I would like to comment that it's a great pleasure to be sitting here at the Littleton Gallon Center, and this is within the high school building, but this particular wonderful setup for career training is something that would be open and is open to our White Mountain Regional High School students, and we are trying very desperately to educate our citizenry to help. Since our governor put in her budget, there is funding for our new career and technical center at White Mountain Regional, but it requires the vote of our public to say, yes, we will take these funds, because it's 75%, am I correct? That will be funded. They will have to call up 25% spread over 8 towns, I believe it is, but it serves 20 villages, 20 towns that can be also using this center as well. So I'm so thrilled to be able to be here at the very opportune time before our school meetings to encourage our citizenry to vote for the CTE Center for White Mountain Regional High School, as well as try to promote the activities for the Northern Pass so that it will not be imposed across Coos County. I've been active in that prior to my election, and I did testify briefly in front of for one of the bills this last week without knowing I would be testifying ahead of time. So I am a extraneous speaker, and maybe not as influential as some, but I do want to put my on the line both for issues that I care about, and they usually come down on making sure communities are safe, that we can impact the health of communities, and we're bringing the best possible educational facilities and services to our young people. We do want to, I think, back up or piggyback on our governor's dream for being an innovative state. We want to have innovation and be on the forward horizon of attracting businesses that may be a part of the IT world, not necessarily the old manufacturing that made us all a very dependable, reliable state, but we have to set up the, I don't know what it is, the infrastructure as well as the bill structure that will attract new businesses so that our young people will have jobs to go into when they graduate.
Linda, Rebecca, would you like to comment?
Good. I will pretty much just echo what everybody has already said.
The North Country is a unique environment. The distance that separates us from one end of Coos County to the other end of Grafton County, just that geographical separation is, I think, has made it difficult to get the whole region. Northern Pass, in a way, I think did some good for the North Country because it got us all on one page finally. And now that we're talking about Northern Pass together, we're starting to talk about other things together. So it may be one of those mixed blessings for the North Country is that we're all talking together now and looking out for each other.
Nice.
I think we have to mention one thing that's happened down there in North Country. Someone put a bill in, I don't know who, and had the great idea that we should throw away or not allow wood stoves that were built after 1936. And I didn't think much of it, but as I saw the bill come up, I saw Leon Rideout from Lancaster down by the speaker. And he had decided he was going to speak against that bill. So he got up, and you're allowed to speak, 2 or 3 minutes, and he made a nice little speak, and in the speech he used words like nanny state. This is the kind of thing that happens, and of course he's thinking about in the North Country, there's lots of people that have wood stoves. Some of them are new, but some of them are old. And the idea of saying you can't have that anymore, and who's going to be the policeman. But the end of it all was when it came to a vote, only 9 people out of 400 voted for it. It was 380 or whatever. And there was a great laugh went up after that those numbers flashed up front. And we were proud of Leon because he was the first one of us that has been in the well.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I'll answer your question too then. And actually, I'd like to comment on what Ralph just said and then answer your question.
Okay.
It was a great question. But that bill was that when a house sold, that if the wood stove was I can't remember the exact.
36.
Was it really 36
Yeah.
that long ago? That it should be replaced. And so the idea was to try to replace these kind of old, inefficient stoves with modern stoves. So the intent was great. Everybody would like to burn less wood, it's more efficient, it'll heat your house better, and send less pollution into the air. So what's not to like? But thinking through what the effect would be on people who can't afford to do that, get rid of that piece of equipment, et cetera, as you've pointed out, plus who's going to enforce it? And I think that actually describes quite a lot of the bills that come through, that the intent may be perfectly fine, but the mechanism for the understanding the consequences and also the mechanism for enforcement is very different. And that is the work really of the committees and the representatives to try to figure that out. So, but in answer to your question, you asked about the North Country compared to other parts of the state. And I believe that people in the North Country, that we love this place in a way that I know other people love where they are in New Hampshire. But I think we're really the heart and soul of the state, and that people from outside this region also feel that. And the North Country is there's a mystique here, and we're almost the safety valve. Wherever you are, you can always go north and get away from it all, and that feeling of coming through the notches and here I am. And anybody who's ever done that will all say the same thing. And that's I'm really proud to be. I love being here. I'm proud to represent this area and proud to take that with us to Concord, so that when we are talking about something like Northern Pass, and we start to get debate on will it create jobs, how many, for whom, for how long, will it lower electric rates for anybody here in New Hampshire compared to Massachusetts and so forth,
I think we've really got to talk about, this is the heart and soul of New Hampshire, and who are we? What are we going to be in the future with that project as it's proposed? So.
Rebecca has said something very important. It's wonderful to go to Concord. I love going to Concord. I love being a part of Concord. And I love coming home.
Yes,
That drive home and
Oh,
turning around
absolutely.
that corner and seeing those mountains
Yeah.
is just as nice as going to Concord.
And
Better.
Yes.
Yes.
But the other thing, the fact that I think most people that don't live in New Hampshire, if they, in their mind, mentally picture New Hampshire, they picture the North Country. They don't picture Manchester.
That is
They
true.
picture the North Country.
That is true. Well, I have one more question for you all, and then we have to wrap this up. I really enjoy having you all here. But my last question, of course, is going to be, if you could send one direct message to the people you represent, what would that message be?
I'll start because that's an easy one.
Okay.
Let me know what you think. You know, I feel that my job is to represent people, and those are going to be different opinions, and I will try to distill from that what I think is the most appropriate way to vote on one of the, you know, the 1,000 bills that come in front of us. But we're all very accessible. You can call us up, you can email us, you can even come to our house and let us know what you think, because that we're representing everyone.
And what I would tell people is we are public servants, and you are the public that we are supposed to be serving. Make us do our job. If you need our help, call us. Email us. Show up at the doorstep. Come to Concord and testify for a bill, but we're there to serve you.
And please do come to Concord and testify on a bill. I've talked to people, and they send somebody that's head of an agency, but Concord runs on stories. Concord runs on those individual stories, and they need to hear from the people in the North Country. Certainly get in touch with me, but please come to Concord and talk about those stories and talk about how these laws are impacting you, because that's what makes the New Hampshire House and the Senate run, is hearing from people.
Marcia.
Likewise, I'm very accessible. Don't be fearful of calling me or emailing me at Marcia Hammond 837, that's the Whitefield 3-digit number, at gmail.com, and I will try to get back to you.
I think we're so fortunate to have such a good delegation of elected officials, Democrat, Republican, and my observation is that, you know, 30–40% of both houses are either right or left, and then we can control the middle, and we can, because of our focus on the middle, we can have more power. And I talked about the issue of the burning stoves and that kind of stuff, that there's plenty of crazy issues right, left, but it's really the projects, and it's really that we need to make our communities better. Marcia had mentioned the CTE project. The governor, lots of persuasion from these people here and others, has come out and stuck her neck out to put money in for this project, for the SAU 36. We've done our hard work. We've had our hand out, and it's been received. Now the voters have to back us up, and they have to vote for this project. And if they don't, my concern is, as their representative, my credibility, our credibility, will be affected. Is that, you know, you didn't match it. So these programs didn't have the support in the local community. I've worked very hard and have found that being in the middle, waiting to make the best decision, the wisest decision, but also knowing that I'm here to represent my constituents. In this gaming bill, to have 10% of the proceeds from the taxes raised on gaming will go to the North Country for economic development. They're saying that's
And
$10
this is the
million.
gambling bill that you're working on.
$10 million flowing into the North Country. So these are the kind of things that, to me, much more than the ideological piece, is that
getting that center opened, providing some economic development and some energy projects, those kinds of things are vitally important. And unfortunately, and it's the frustrating part, is I agree with the Northern Pass has brought us together, but it can't take all the energy out of the room, because we need to do more for those people who are struggling. We are more and more people, we're growing second home retirees, but I'm tired of going to meetings where I am the youngest person in the room. And especially as you go north into Coos County, we need to build up the younger parents, younger people, professional people, getting them an opportunity to stay and be involved in our community. So, that's to me the great concern. And I just so admire my colleagues from the North Country, because I think that Democrat, Republican, we've all worked together and share in all the benefits and the good work that we've been able to do.
I echo everybody's opinions, and also the fact that we need to hear both sides of the issue, because by listening to both sides, that then helps us to make a more informed decision when it comes time for a vote. And everybody's voice counts. So the more that I can hear, because I don't want to make a judgment on just one side, I want to be able to know what both sides have to say, and then feel that I've made an informed decision when I go to vote.
I think we all agree with Rebecca on the most important thing is call us up. And then, along with what Sue says, come down and testify. And then Senator Woodburn says, I don't see young people at the meetings. I would remind people that when we're listening to testimony and somebody comes in from the North Country or is a doer, not somebody that's paid to come in and teach us,
Right.
a real doer, that information carries much more weight. We'll listen. The committee members attended to listen and put more weight on them. We had some people come in on a American Disability Act Thursday, and some people with disabilities came in, and there was a lot of big boys in there, but they had the floor for much longer than the big boys, because we had questions for them, and more questions. And so that's another reason. And then finally, in the long range, what I'm up to, and I would hope that you are too, that I would love to see when the primaries come along next year, those ballots full of people that want to get involved in politics, that want to go to Concord, and push me right out. I'm sure you got more energy. You have more energy than I have, and certainly give as much.
Well, I thank you all very much. At the end of our program, we will have information on the screen to contact each one of your representatives here and our senator. Just give them a call with your good, bad, and ugly comments. They want to hear them all. I'm Michelle Schaefer. Thank you very much for watching Channel 2.